Hello.
Hello, Sorun. Hello again.
Hello, Anik.
Hello, nice to see
Welcome.
you.
You
Thank you.
too.
Thank you
Welcome
for
to
having me.
Ljósvarpið. Ah, it's
Ye-
always a
ah,
pleasure.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, it
I
is indeed.
instead of saying a lot of things about you, I just well, first of all, I am so happy you are here. And I must say you have been one of the light towers in my life for over a year now. Yes,
Ooh,
you have been a very loyal, trustful friend
wow,
in
thank you.
all these turbulent times. And we've of course interchanged and been in contact for such a long time, in waves, but
Hmm,
more or
hmm, hmm.
less. And it's been so inspiring and so heartwarming and
Oh,
wonderful.
thank you.
Yes.
You
And
are the
it's a
person that brought me into much of this, or you have a big part to play in this as well. Not into, I've always been on this path, but you showed me something that I was afraid of. And
ah,
so, yes, a bit of
okay.
programming that I think we were all subject to, and through it being presented by someone like you, who is clearly a caring, loving, warm being, it made this something that had been sold to me as being quite dangerous, be much more humane and natural. And so,
Ah,
so I can thank you for that too.
oh, thank you. We do this together for sure.
Absolutely.
And inspire one another, and that's why we're here too, because you are such an inspiring person. You're such there's so much life in you, there's so much joy in you, there is so much wisdom in you.
Oh,
And this calling of serving is so strong
mm,
in you.
mm.
But I want to know a little bit more about you, and that so if you just start telling me where you were born, um, basically a little bit about your background and your youth and
Hmm,
younger years. You're still very young, and
hmm,
how you came to Iceland and all of
hmm.
these juicy
Okay,
details.
get the juice out. Okay, so I was born to a mixed family. My dad was from New Zealand. My mother was born German, though, like many in her generation, she's in denial of that. Her father was Italian. He died for the Italian army in the Second World War. She never met him.
Mm,
Her mother was French German mix, quite complicated. So I think no generation was born into the birthplace of the previous generation in my family over many generations. So me moving to Iceland is kind of like something that I had to do, genetically speaking, genetically programmed. And so I was born on the Isle of Wight, which is where David Icke and Graham Hancock, he's not there anymore, but David Icke is there. Uh, then we moved to Bath, which is a beautiful city, Roman city in south of England.
mm, mm.
And then my mother married her high school sweetheart from Germany. We moved to Germany. Well, I was there for a number of years, and then I went to I was sent to an English boarding school, which I hated. Oh, it's the oldest school in the world, and it was, you can imagine, it's like directly next to the cathedral, very heavy energy, and it really showed me what that world is like, what these people are like. I had direct kind
Mhm,
of access to that category of people,
mhm,
which I rebelled against very hard. um,
mhm.
and then I went to London for art school because I didn't want to take part in the education system because I saw through it from from quite a young age. I have always been, since a young age, an alternative information seeker. I've always looked for for the more hidden side to stories. My mom read 1984 to me when I was 12, and that there was like this, exactly this kind of thing.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I've always been along this kind of like socio-critical, anti-corruption, pro-human kind of thing. And so going to art school was the only option I really had, because I didn't want to go into formal education. My stepdad's a doctor, so I had this kind of formal background, as it were. He was a very popular children's doctor, a very humane children's doctor. I was talking to him the other day about this, and he was saying, if you have morals in as a doctor, you don't make money. And I saw that all along when we lived together. I could see other doctors making lots of money who were getting paid by the pharmaceutical companies. He refused to do that, and as a result, he never got money. You know, doctors are always seen as rich people, but still not now, because he doesn't take the bonuses, because a lot of their pay comes from this. Anyway, I'm going sidetracking
just
really hard.
go ahead.
And then London was a very heavy place to be, you know, for a sensitive person. I just picked up on, because it's a place, it's one of those, well, for one, the history, you know, it's built on the city of London. It's built on blood of the world's population, you know. And it's also a place where people come from around the world to make it, you know, one of those places. So there's a lot of desperation in the air, a lot of kind of like service to self energy in the air, and you can really pick up on it. And I wasn't so aware of it at the time, but I was super sensitive to it, and I became almost suicidal because of it. Not really, but you know, but it really weighed on me, you know. And then I was my stepdad liked going to the Alps. We'd go on mountaineering journeys to the Alps, and there I was like, wow, I love this rawness. And I'd always been drawn to Scandinavia because of Scandinavian roots. And then I was like, I want to go to Iceland. I want to walk across Iceland. And he's like, no, you don't do that. And we rented a 4x4 and we traveled around the country, and I cried bitter tears when time had come to leave. And so pretty much as soon as I got back home to England, I was out again. I was like, I quit my relationship, I quit my band, and bought a one-way ticket here. I didn't know anyone. I had 200 euros to my name. And yeah, and so I came here, and yeah, and the rest is history, as I say.
Wow. You said you quit your band. Were you playing in a band in England? No, in Germany.
It was actually between the two countries. We had some members in Germany, some in England, and we would do a lot of traveling. So that's why I did that. And it was a very social, a very like political, socio-critical rap band. And so yeah, that's always from an early age been a thing.
Well, you're still producing music videos and playing in a band.
2020 put a bit of a pause to that, because because at the end of the day, even though it is putting a message across, it's still a service to self thing, you know. And I'm not talking down the arts or performancing in any way, but for me personally, I wanted to have more direct effect, you know. I've always felt this healing calling in me, which has been increasing over the years. And previously I only associated that with formal training, psychology, blah blah blah, which I didn't want to have any part in because of my experiences from family members being in that world, and it was not inviting to me at all. And so and then and I've always had that calling in me, but felt I was a bit of an imposter in that way, because I didn't really have any clue about it, and I'm a male, and you know, all of these kind of things. But then when I discovered heart math, I kept on hearing about it in podcasts I was listening to, and I just swallowed that entirely, just like wow, what is this? And then through quite a beautiful synchronicity, like my late dad, I think, sent me this thing. Hey, you can do this. This is something that you could do. And I went and checked it out, and I was like, and they were doing training courses on it, and I went straight for the training course and have been just loving doing that. This is my calling now. I really feel this is my
your call. Yes, I want to go back to heart math, because I this is your new, let's say, career, what you say yourself, and your calling, and I want to go deeper into it. But before we go there, I want to know a little bit more about, Iceland and your connections, and just a little. You met your wife, and you have, yeah.
That took 6 months. she was living in Germany at the time. She was just here on holidays. She was studying art as well in Germany, and I'd promised myself never to live in Germany again. And then I met her. I was like, okay. So I moved out there, and we lived in Bavaria for a year or two, and which was terrible, but we enjoyed it, you know. And then we were actually, when we came back here, we were on our way to New York to work there, and then we got stuck. I got stuck here again, you know. I was just like, no, let's just stay here. We don't want to go to New York. Let's just stay here.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Okay.
we've done that. Yeah.
This was just a little interlude. Just wanted to. Yes,
Yeah.
I know you have beautiful children and a beautiful wife, Icelandic wife, and and I wanted to how did you what you did before, how do you say that, with the art, and how did that connect to the heart math, if you weave it together?
I don't think I can make a direct connection to the art thing, other than the lyrics that I have been, you know, I've always used lyricism because I'm a lyricist. I'm not a musician, so to speak. I'm a lyricist, and I had always used the lyrics to impart a message of actually I can connect it. Our band name was called Cryptochrome, and Cryptochrome is a substance that all living beings have in their eyes, and they use it to see the magnetic fields around things. So birds use this for navigation, and etc. etc. And then you hear of people who see auras and who see ghosts and these kind of things, which are electromagnetic fields, you know.
Yes.
And when they take they've done experiments where they took human cryptochrome out of our eyes and inserted into Drosophila fruit flies, and it works with them. So human cryptochrome works when transplanted. So it works in us. It's just something has switched it off.
Yes.
For most people. And so so this was always my message, was to kind of show people that we are much more than we are led to believe. And the podcast I was working as a painter for a few years, and I was listening to a lot of ancient hidden history podcasts and health, like sovereign health, these kind of things. And then the heart math thing came up, and this obviously resonated with me very much, because it was all about the power that we have as human beings to control and to have influence over our own health, our own well-being, not just health, everything, our whole system, the functioning of the whole spiritual, mental, holistic package. Yes. And so to me, it was like, wow, this is I just wanted to know more and more and more about this, because it was it held everything that I cared about,
Exactly. And also the connection between people, of course, and
absolutely.
Yes, and how we connect from heart to heart.
Exactly. Measurably.
Yes.
And I've always been the kind of person who people, I hear it a lot, that people say, I have never met you before, but I'm telling you things that I've never told anyone. And I get this a lot. And so it is part of my natural character to be able to connect with people on that level, and to be able to, that people feel that they can trust, that they can be open and be able to say things, and for that to be treated with trust, and to be able to be built upon and used, and in a positive way, to kind of like, okay, well, have you considered this? Have you, this kind of thing. Exactly. So it's
they open their hearts to you.
They do, and I love that, and I love the effect that it has on people. The literally life-changing effect that this very simple knowledge has on people's lives.
Yes. Well, what I was trying to get at also, because sometimes when you take such a drastic let's say drastic, you choose suddenly this heart math, that there's always some kind of weaving together or kinds of things coming together, and then boom, it's heart math.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that's
yeah, absolutely.
what I'm more fishing about. What would have prepared you to get where you are now? Well,
I think, well,
hmm.
the things, I think it was actually a question of getting rid of blocks that prevented me from
Okay.
getting there. It wasn't, it was always there, but I had my own blocks that that prevented me from just owning it, owning this this ability, this desire to do so, you know, because this, there is a certain kind of like, to see oneself as a healer is, in my eyes then, was kind of a bit like, who do you think you are, you know? It's kind of
Exactly.
and so I had this psychological forced humility in me, as it were, you know, not even humility, but suppression, you know. And I had to, it was via doing a lot of shadow work with Una, with my wife, over the years, over many years, but particularly in the last 4 years, that that allowed me to then dissolve these things and to then be able to fully step into my own, just step into my own, you know, without shame, without and just be like, yes, this is what I want to do, and own it and embrace it.
Would you say that the experiences you had in your other type of work, you were also working a lot with children, weren't you?
Yes, working in the Waldorf system, which
Yes.
is, that's definitely a step in that direction for sure.
Yes, but also that background probably also was a part of the weaving system of getting you to
Yeah,
the
for sure,
heart
for sure,
math. And all
absolutely.
this.
But again, I was drawn to Waldorf because it fitted in with my own ideas.
Yes.
It didn't sculpt me. I was drawn to it because of it,
Yes.
because it aligned, it resonated with me, you know. And so
Yes.
I guess I just, discovered the certain things that I discovered when I needed to discover them, when I was ready to do so, you know. Like before I started at Waldorf, I was working at a state-run play school, which I hated.
Yeah.
And then someone there said, "Hey, have you tried Waldorf?" I was like, "Oh my gosh, there we go. Yeah, perfect." So it's just like you get drawn, continually
Yes.
in directions that are closer and closer to who you are. This is the human growth process, you know.
Exactly what I was trying to get to. Exactly, one thing leads to the other.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
get this angle and you do a little detour here and you know about this, and then and then suddenly you land, and you land so beautifully in this. And what would you like to tell people who would like to know a little bit more about heart math, if they want to come, for example, and get a session with you, for example? How would that work?
It's well, that's it can. It's incredibly simple. It's it can, one session in a way is enough to awaken understanding in people that can have a profound effect. The course that I have learned to teach can be done in around 4 or 5 sessions. However, many people realize, like, you can go endlessly deep into certain things, you know. Heart math in itself is just just like a revolutionary understanding of human physiology, of how we work. And so what I teach is that basic understanding, which is just a shift in how we see the things. And this is backed by hundreds of scientific studies, and it's used in hospitals, it's used by the army, even in America, it's used in schools, it's used in big companies, it's used, so it's, actually very well established. And it's teaching this very this revolutionary, just like shift in understanding of how we work, and then teaching techniques to be able to have control over this, so to be able to have a conscious effect on how we are, and that has then an effect on literally everything else, on our health, on our mental well-being, on our functioning, on our intuition, on our immune system, on literally everything, because
Yes.
we live in a world which is dominated by fear. Selling,
Mm-hmm.
it's a market dominated world, and we're kept in fear in order to be good customers, because people who are fearing things, they are easily suggestible, and they buy more stuff. It's very simple. The more sovereign someone is, the less they need. And
Exactly.
so, but the fear state is extremely detrimental to our physical well-being. It's very taxing, and we lose a lot of energy by being in this fear state, which puts us into this tired, stressed, physical, unwell state.
Yes.
Whereas heart math techniques, it's basically alchemy. It's teaching you to transmute those energies and to be able to shift from draining emotions, energetically draining emotions, and being able to pinpoint where they are in your life, where the root of the problem is, and to be able to address that in daily life, in situations. If you're feeling triggered by something, if you're feeling stressed by something, if you're feeling uneasy about something, anything of a depleting energetic type, it teaches you to just switch that around, and the effects are immediate.
Yes, it's also the ideas that come up when I listen to you is also that you draw the energy into your heart space instead of always being in your head space.
Yes.
Always in their thoughts.
Yes.
You go more into your intuition, like you say, and into your heart, into your compassionate way of being, and all of that. And I just wanted to say that that's also how I work with my singing. So
Yeah,
when people
absolutely.
are in the audience, I take the programs. I don't give them any programs. I don't tell them what I'm going to sing. So beforehand, so that they can listen with their heart instead of be in the program and watch the words if I sang the right words. And so it's really forced, and some people have a really hard time with that.
I'm sure, because we are taught to rely upon our left brain for information, which is external always.
Yes.
Which is why we're so manipulable, because we have been taught to rely on outside external logic and facts and this kind of thing, rather than the heart has been shown to have a lot of intelligence. It's got its own neurons, huge numbers of its own neurons. Much more information goes from the heart to the brain than vice versa. And a beautiful experiment example is one and this has been done many times, where they will put a test subject in front of a screen which will flash images. These images will come for maybe 5 seconds, and then there'll be 10 seconds of nothing, and then the test subject is obviously hooked up to all sorts of receiver and so on. And it is shown that the heart will pick up on what type of image it is, whether it's an image that evokes fear or stress, or whether it's an image that evokes pleasant feelings. The heart will pick up on what is coming 5 seconds in advance on average. In advance. And this obviously completely does not fit into our understanding of materialistic worldview that we have, but it's there. It's the results are there. And rather than ignoring the results, we should, and say that because it doesn't fit into our understanding, it can't be. Learn, okay, no, what is this telling us? What is this telling us about our? And so by learning these to tap into this, the heart intelligence, we are able to there are certain techniques in this which are specifically about tapping into your intuitive insights, like if you're in a tricky situation that is just like, I'm freaking out here, take a second out, do one of the techniques, actually and get into this. It's called coherent state, heart brain coherence. It's when your brain and your heart are working together, and suddenly new ideas will pour in, new solutions to how to, rather than trying to fix the problem from a stressed thing, you're opening your heart intelligence, and suddenly insights will come in, and you'll be like, let's do it like this.
Yes.
You know, it's and this, if everyone were to work like this, if everyone wanted to be able to access that, you know,
absolutely,
the world would be quite a different place.
Yeah, I've always been a lot like this, listening to my heart. And then people tend to say, then you don't listen with your brain. And so they diminish the intelligence, like you say so well, the heart intelligence, they diminish. It's not good enough in there because you're not listening with the brain.
Because
and so
we've been taught that logic and reason is the only thing to listen to.
Exactly.
Because it's very, very useful, again, for the, you know, how you can't do propaganda if you have people who are listening to their own intuitions, you know. The heart, we've been taught that the heart is on the left. You know, you ask where's your heart? It's here. No, it's not. It's in the center. We are center beings, you know. Each individual heartbeat has very detailed encoded information in it. It's not just a pump that pumps blood. It's sending information to the whole system. There's a beautiful experiment that was done with prairie dogs, these little kind of and they communicate in clicks, like go, and each one of them, they showed that they analyzed the waveforms of the clicks, and each individual click has grammatic information to the tune of, there is a person approaching from the left wearing yellow, carrying something blue, in a single click.
Wow.
Exactly. And then with that knowledge, okay, that's just, they've studied one thing. Imagine the birds, you know, imagine what is encoded in their communication. It's just showing us how very little we know, and how presumptuous we are about the things we know, and our superiority, and all of these kind of things, you know. And if this, you know, one click sound can then hold this, and it's the same with the heart, you know, it's so much more than just a pump. And this heart math has been going on since the 90s, since the early 90s, and it's spreading hugely, because it's you know, the truth has a tendency to do that. And it's just this new insight on how we are as beings, that we can access information from a more what we see now as mystical place, but it is highly intelligent and highly insightful, you know. Surely we should listen to that.
Absolutely. But it's also interesting because, of course, the way I function is also very, very telepathic. And that also, when you say that 5 seconds before the picture came, the heart already knew, it also is related to telepathy and energy fields and everything. And how I think one day we will be much, much more telepathic than we are now in the future, and we will not use as much language. For example, I have a hard time expressing everything that I feel and visualize, because I see so much in colors and pictures, and then I think I say this and I express this, and then when I listen to it, now I understand why the person didn't understand me, because there is so much more to the expression. Yes.
Gosh, I know that.
Yeah.
Well, but, we all are telepathic, and we all have constant flow of information coming to us, which mostly we reject, which mostly we see as, that's just some silly thought I had, rather than actually picking up on it. And this, the idea, the paradigm that we are in, this materialistic paradigm that we are in, dictates that the brain produces consciousness. So it's something that we produce, and therefore we are isolated. Whereas researchers that are actually doing science on the nature of telepathy and so on, especially in animals, it's particularly easy to study, are showing that yes, this is very much a thing. And then if you go further, and that there's a doctor called Bruce Grayson in, I forget which university he's in America, but he was doing autopsies on, he's a consciousness researcher. He was doing autopsies where he found that certain people, there was one very nice example of a college professor, and her autopsy showed that like most of her brain was missing. She did not have a brain in her head. It was just the very basic parts of it. You know, and there were many of these autopsies, and it wasn't just an isolated case. There were many of these things. Well, the Egyptians, they scooped the nose out. They preserved everything carefully, but they scooped the nose out, through the brain through the nose, and fed it to the dogs. They didn't care about the brain. It's very interesting.
Yes.
Of course, it's got the pineal gland, and it's got all sorts of things, but it's.
I know, yeah.
But I think we just do have this very non-holistic view of how we and this very materialistic view of how we work, and this needs to change, and it is changing very rapidly.
It is changing, yes. And now when we are starting to become much more aware of the pineal gland and what's been happening to it, how it has been calcified and poisoned through all these things that are happening in our environment, through so many things and all the brainwashing. But I was also thinking that when we move towards this, what we're talking about, the more holistic kind of living, and we uncalcify or cleanse our pineal gland and open up to the source and listen to our hearts, and maybe, well, of course, we strengthen our ESP, extrasensory perception, then the truth cannot be hidden. Because I say sometimes, I have nothing to hide. Why are we always trying to hide ourselves in so many ways? It's when we go towards more telepathy, we can read each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we've been taught to do this. Again, this is learned behavior. I mean, you can't watch a single try and think of a film where someone doesn't lie, for instance. Can you? Any TV show, there's always a lie somewhere, you know, and this is so normalized, and it's so normalized that we adapt to a status quo, which is highly inhumane, actually, you know, because it does mean that we become shameful of who we are.
Yes.
And shame is one of the most destructive emotions that we can experience.
Yes.
You know, it's kind of like, I see it akin to an autoimmune disease. You know, an autoimmune disease is your body rejecting itself. It's like it's seeing things as coming from the outside and it needs to fight them off. And it's the same with shame. When you are shameful, your system is rejecting itself. You know. And I haven't looked into it, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was a link between those two, if there was a link between autoimmune disease and shame.
Yes, yes. I mean, in general, emotions and our state of well-being, it will produce a disease, dissonance within, you know? It's all
I was shocked. This thing that we were talking about earlier on, this NIH study on mask usage, and they were conclusively showing that masks are not only useless in the context that they're being used at the moment, but they're also physically and psychological damaging. And I was actually, and this is an NIH study, and I was almost shocked to see the psychological things that they were linking there. They were linking cancer to, you know, psychological things, psychological dis-ease producing cancer, and you know, and masks causing an autoimmune deficiency, you know. And
yes, and all the children there, or youth, the teenagers that are wearing this, I also think about them, how much help they need when all of this is over.
Oh yeah, but that's when people like us, I think, kick in, you know. That's, I mean, there's going to be so much healing needed, so much healing.
I know a lot of people are getting prepared exactly to be of service and help and support those that are really, really in need.
Mm.
But I also wanted to ask you. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
No. Also, I think if it is playing out the way that people like you and I see it playing out, and there being a gradual exposure of the whole agenda, so to speak, because there clearly is one, then it will also be very useful for people who have knowledge of this, of the background behind it all,
Yeah.
and knowledge of healing and holistic health, because those things will be very closely interlinked,
Yes. And also what people also, I feel more than ever now, of course, it's been a crazy year now, over a year now.
2 weeks to flatten the curve.
I know.
Oh.
But it has been going in very interesting stages, at least for me. And then you arrive to a point where you just want to focus on the solution. And focus on to create, like you're doing with the heart math, you're preparing and create the life we want to live.
Yes.
To keep in, we know all of that. What we were saying, the big picture, what's going on or has been going on for ages. But we also need to start really, creating the solution, creating the new earth, and step into it really with all our might and power and sovereignty. And and I wanted to,
Well, sometimes the thing we learn by contrasts. The fact that there is this agenda happening shows the contrast that we need to focus on. And to me, the agenda is making us unsovereign in every possible way, in health, in finance, in knowledge, in everything, in food, in everything. We are outsourcing our responsibility for everything. And this has been happening gradually over time, to the point now that people completely submit happily all of their knowledge. This kind of stuff about, who are you, a doctor? No, I just listen to, it's no, you have your own power. We are living in a wonderful age where you can find out whatever you want. Take that responsibility, take that sovereignty back, inform yourself. Don't let some guy on the TV screen tell you what it is. Yes, listen to him, but listen to 10 other people, and then figure your own opinion, see what works out. And so I think I think it is important to highlight what has been intentionally done to us to be able to effectively find the solution, or the way out from it, to deprogram from that.
Absolutely. And you pointed out a very important thing, and that is to take full responsibility for yourself and not always put your focus or let's say power, give your power away to the external forces. And it's not either, because some people also fall in the pit to wait for a savior. But we are our own saviors. We are the ones who will save ourselves and rise above all of this. And I think the contrasts are really, I think of this as the greatest experience in life, what has been happening, even though it's been tough, and you learn about so many things that you weren't aware of, even though you were aware of a lot of things. And then suddenly everything makes sense. And then also, like you say, the contrasts move you into doing something. They wake you up into really stand in your sovereignty and or deprogram and look at your habits and look at your shadows and all of the work. And so I'm very grateful for it. I really am.
2020 was my favorite year. I mean, wow, it was great suddenly seeing people like I mean, you know, people with alternate ideas like us, we've kind of like been quietly kind of like occasionally saying something, but being prepared for people to ridicule us and da 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 da. And now we found a voice. And
Yes.
although I agree with the fact that I mean, definitely we need to take this into our own hands and not wait for a savior. Sometimes it does need someone to say, right, this is happening now, and to get people to, you know, there is a movement here that sometimes, you
Yes.
know, you do need someone to kind of like be to inspire others to do so.
Absolutely. Yes, yes, yes. I'm not saying that. It's part of it, of course, that you feel that there's something, there is a power, there is a force that's rising up. But instead of
But
just, you know, lay back and do nothing, it's you feel also different when you take it into your own hands. Then you start creating the
absolutely,
path. Yeah.
absolutely. Well, it's, to me, it's a kind of fractal thing, you know. If it happens up the octaves, as it were, then it happens on the lower octaves where we are as well. So if there's like a, you know, it's an individual thing and a group thing as well, you know.
Yes, but
Very much so.
I guess I'm more or less speaking of people who are going up and down with their state of being. Then they're very depressed, then they're very high because now they see something is happening, and then they go down. You know, instead of feeling this calmness, tranquility, the serenity inside, because you know, you just know.
Yeah.
And of course there is a higher power. There is it's not just us little humans here on earth.
Yeah. Well, to me, it was very empowering, this whole what is known as the Great Awakening, because up to that point, I felt that, you know, I could make songs about this until I was blue in the face, but whether that's going to have an effect on someone, whether it's going to actually make any change, okay, sure, I can make, you know, go into an eco village, but then I'm also just isolating myself to a degree. I don't want that. I want the whole world to change, because without that changing, we have no chance of that eco village happening, or, you know what I mean?
Yes.
Sustainably into the future, because the way it's happening at the moment, they're clamping down on everything, you know what I mean?
Everything is a needs to do. It needs to crumble. It's not, we can't go half-hearted into it. We have to go with full heart into this and really, really stand in our power.
Yeah. I was excited in 2008, thinking that was the beginning of it. And in a way it was a beginning of it, or one of the steps in that direction, because before that happened, people still saw bank managers as a kind of aspirational thing, you know. Literally, that was still like, oh, I'm a bank manager kind of thing. But then when that happened, suddenly this idea of banksters came in, which had been forgotten since the 30s, you know. But it really got people thinking like, oh my gosh, you know, there can be, because that is a conspiracy, you know, in a way. And so people were awakened. And I remember my parents, they were like, oh gosh, you the things that you've been saying are correct now. So they actually, for the first time, like listened up, and suddenly I wasn't talking crap, because I'd been following everything. And I actually, our first play school job, we got 2 days before the crash, because we were working as independent art curators, and I was watching the conspiracy sites, and I knew that there was something afoot, and I was like, this is not sustainable. We can't be being freelance now. We have to get something more secure. And it was literally 2 days after we got that job together that the crash happened. So I was like, you know, sometimes it's good to listen to the tinfoil hat people. Sometimes they know what they're talking about.
Absolutely. Would you say that what happened last year was a catalyst in you moving into the heart math?
I was on that direction anyway.
Okay.
I was on that direction anyway, and I was unemployed anyway when when 2020 came. So it wasn't 2020 was no shift to me, just like, yeah, welcome to my world, it's, hang out in your pajamas and enjoy life, but so yeah, actually I had enrolled for a course to learn it for April, but I got so distracted by everything that was happening that just absorbed me 100%. And so I was actually a little bit I found it a bit of a shame that those things coincided, because it took me a lot longer to do my learning process because of the huge distraction that 2020 was. But
yeah, it was every plan that you made was, oh, all right, let that go, because nobody could plan anything. And in a way, I thought that was the best thing that could happen to us, if we talk about a little bit of the positive effect of all this chaos. That I certainly created things that I never thought I would create because of it. And I'm really, really grateful, because it just sort of, I wouldn't say forced me to, but the situation sort of, and also this letting go of many old paradigm structures of timing and marketing and the way things are usually done. They're just out of the window. And that pushes you into thinking in a different way and see things from a different perspective.
To answer your question on whether it was a catalyst, I would say because of my personality type, I learned the other day I'm an INFJ, which is a huge oh gosh, now everything makes sense. But it's the personality type is, I've always been highly intuitive. I only go via intuition. Like moving to Iceland with 200 euros is something that only an insane person would do, kind of thing. It's just like I know this will work out, and I've always just had a strong feeling, and I've always gone with it, and it's always worked for me. So, and if you link that into what I was saying earlier on with the 5 seconds in advance, this is on average. This is just what they can measure with an input like that. But I believe, like for instance, the Schumann resonance, it peaked before 9/11. They were picking up on big shifts happening before 9/11 happened. And so we do have this ability to sense what we call the future. It's our understanding of it is very limited.
Yes.
But so I would say that maybe more likely I was picking up on something that I would be needing to be doing, because then when when 2020 kicked in, then it was like, oh, this is so perfect for that. This is so necessary for this coming time. So I would say more it's me preemptively adapting rather than being inspired because of something. But it's the same thing. It's the same thing.
Yeah, I understood it also, of course, that it was in your field and that you wanted to do it and everything. But sometimes, even though, like for my sound healing work or for my teachings and everything, I always go a little bit here, and then I go a little bit here, and then like this happened, and then and then you add some colors and flowers into, and you understand why you are delayed sometimes.
Right.
In the process, because you needed to pick up on some learnings or intuition hits and downloads. It was more that I meant, that now you maybe understand or understand, or let's say how much you can use it, how much it's going to be needed, your work.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And it would give you a kick to really move it. So
yeah. Well, to me, it really is nothing less than an entire paradigm shift on how we are as human beings, and a very necessary one.
Yes.
Because we had been squashed into just tiny gummy bear versions of who we're supposed to be, And so, yeah, I do think this is very much part of this shift that we're going through at the moment. And I think it is, and I do, I do believe that it will be an instrumental part of just this understanding that we are sovereign of our own, the heart is centric to our being, that we are intuitive, that it has intelligence, that we have control over it, that we, all of this, it's just sovereignty in a nutshell, really. It's that's the first step, in a way. The first step is starting here, and then you could work outwards onto everything else.
Yes. And the beauty of the heart, I also work a lot with with the heart space in my work, but it's also this balance of giving and receiving.
Yeah.
And unconditionally. So like when you talk about your listening to your intuition, it's just completely from the heart. It's completely trusting. And it's so beautiful. And it's the same way when you give from the heart, you give it completely unconditionally without expecting anything in return. And then you have to also be open to receive what comes your way,
Yes.
And I think this is what we're going to go to. We're going to go there in the new earth energies, that we are going to, I see it without money. I see completely with this kind of balance in life. And well, if we look to other races, highly evolved races, there is no money.
Yeah.
So I think we're going.
It does seem
maybe
a
not,
little bit basic, doesn't it? The whole money thing, it really does seem a little bit. It's scarcity mindset is what it is.
Yes, of course. Yes, yeah. But how would you see, or how do you see the new Earth? Well, let's say if you look into the next few years, what do you see?
Ideally, ideally speaking, I very much hope, and I do see it actually happening at the moment, that we will be shown the systemic abuse that we have been subjected to for centuries, millennia, which will be very hard for many people to swallow. It will be, that's the time when there will be many people who need an awful lot of help and reorientation. I do so, but beyond that, we will be relearning who we are as beings. I do believe that we have Tesla energy, Nikola Tesla energy. I do believe that we have access to that. And so if that were to be implemented, we would not only have heart, math, physical and emotional sovereignty, but also energy sovereignty, which will be a complete game changer. And then that will just change everything. That would really change everything. And I just, I just hope that will, or even, I mean, yes, no, we do have it. There's just no way we can't have it. But even if, I've watched over the years so many free energy technologies being suppressed, just left, right, and center, just happening all the time. And so even if we shouldn't have that somewhere lurking, ready to be shown to us, even if that is not the case, which I'm sure it is, but even if it's not, then at least we will have the ability to explore new ones. You see what I mean? Or it won't be suppressed by the system anymore, And so I see it as us having been literally under the boot of the regime for centuries, and we will be, our growth has been stunted so heavily as beings, individually and globally, And I think as soon as that restriction is removed, we just start growing. We just start blossoming. Those kind of people are hard to rule.
Yes, and also because what we've been meant to believe is that humans, or let's say mankind, is evil, evil, and I think we are good.
I know,
from nature.
We're oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
That we are just hurt people, it's a system that was made by sociopaths for sociopaths, and it's a system in which they thrive. And to imagine that they kind of like limit themselves to not have, you know, to go as far as they can, as using all tools at their disposal to have all the power that they can have, is naive. To imagine that that's not happening is just naive. You said about our belief of humanity being bad, and this is true. We are being taught this as part of the shaming agenda. And I have a very beautiful example of this. And I grew up in England, where do you know the book The Lord of the Flies?
I've heard about it.
There's a famous book called The Lord of the Flies, which it paints out the situation. Interestingly, it was written by a headmaster of a school, so that that's already saying something about who was writing it, from whose brain this sprung. He paints a situation of a group of boys crash landing, I forgot how, on a desert island, and how they just basically turn into savages, killing each other and fighting for the leadership. So, and this is the idea that at least everyone in England was raised upon, that this is what human nature is. Interestingly, you can find this on the net, simultaneously, bizarrely, the same situation actually was happening, where a group of boys was stranded on a desert island, and they were found 10 to 15 years later. And of course, they had built a beautiful symbiotic society where everything was working perfectly together, where they were, you know, providing for themselves and living in harmony. And this is human nature. But if we're told that we are bad people, then we start fearing it. Yeah, and then there you go, you know. Then you start shaming yourself. You start fearing other people. Of course, there are examples of you know, of people behaving badly throughout time. But this is, you know, there are psychopaths, there are sociopaths, but we need, this is part of our collective learning process. We need to, like, a lot of the shadow work that my wife and I went through was realizing the narcissistic effects in our lives. And as soon as one was pointed out, it was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, cutting them off, realizing why we were subject to this. And collectively, we are under narcissistic abuse, have been for a very, very long time. And we are in this Stockholm syndrome of you know, people in abusive situations, it takes a lot for them to even admit it in the first place. They will love the red flags away. They will just be like, oh no, but they're just doing it because they care, or, you know, this kind of crap. We have to know.
So hard. It's so hard.
Well, because it's not them actually loving the person, it's them loving their own ego. This is the hard thing, because telling them that they were, you know, wrong basically about this person is confronting their own ego. They're being confronted with, I was being duped, you know, I was being fooled. And as they say, it's much easier to fool someone than it is to tell them that they had been fooled, you know. And so, we're at this position in humanity at the moment where the evidence for this, the situation that we're in at the moment, being untruthful, is just getting more and more and more. And you just watch people going through the most incredible feats of mental gymnastics to try and cling on to why their belief is correct, and it's getting harder and harder and harder by the day. And you just see them, or, you know, now we're at the point they're getting aggressive about it, and that's all. They can't justify it any longer properly, you know, and so they just resort to anger. And we're at that point now. And the next point is that they just accept it, you know. So
yeah, that would be my next question or pondering on. If, I guess, I mean, we see the new earth grow and expand, the beauty, and certainly I can, and this is how I function today, is in this energy, and it just gives me, it's such happiness, even though I'm in solitude and not in contact with almost anybody except, you know, online, which I'm really grateful for. But some people talk about different realities that certainly a certain amount of people are going to go into the new earth energy in this way, like we're just talking about, and a part of humanity is going to stay stuck in the 3D and stubbornly not open their eyes. What is your view on this?
I'm wondering, I mean, yes, I think some people will be maybe like affected beyond repair by it. That it, you know, kicks off a cognitive dissonance that pushes them over the edge of mental health. You know, this is very possible. To me, that in a way is the only option, the only way that could be the case, because if we do indeed get rid of the old system and begin upon a new one, I don't see what they could still cling on to. They can't still be watching CNN when CNN is not there anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They can't.
Yeah.
They, if they're, you know, they're only going to be buying the, if they remove all of these terrible pharmaceuticals and the whole ideology behind the pharmaceutical thing. If you remove that, then you can't go to try and open an apotheke and try and force them to sell. You see what I mean? Once this once we have been shown this, I think it will be very hard to unless it's just, as said, mental, just like complete mental collapse, sadly, you know. I wish that weren't the case, but I'm quite sure that some people will just not be able to deal with their whole paradigm collapsing, everything that they, because people invest so much of their identity with this, you know.
Yeah, I know. I mean, the world crumbles. It just falls apart for some people, and especially those maybe who just hold rigidly tight to the old and what we've been told and brainwashed with and all of that. Yeah.
Well, I mean, maybe to some extent it is this, I don't like using terms like ascension and this kind of thing, because I'm quite pragmatic still. And I, you know, I see myself as a bridge. I like to be able to connect to, you know, rather than talking about things that to some people are completely inaccessible. You know, I like to be able to for it to be relatable, you know. But to me, that is, in a world way, more is kind of what I would see to be, you know, a heaven and hell situation, an unfolding of bliss, and the hell being the mental torment. Soldran, do you mind if I press pause? My son's trying to call me. Can you? I'm really sorry about this. My son's trying to call me on the phone.
Okay.
I need to speak to him. I'm really sorry about this.
Okay. We are back.
Oh, hello again.
Hello again. Yes. Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how all of this pans out with the realities, and if people try to, you know, hold tight to what's really not there, or difficult to have in their lives. But
I do think, though, actually, one more thing on that. I do, as someone who has been watching the unfolding of what is known as the plan for quite a while, and knowing the deeply humane nature of it, and seeing how it is being unrolled gradually, step by step, I think it's being done as mercifully as humanly possible. So it's not forced upon people, rather it's letting people see it for themselves.
Yeah.
Because as that letter says, it's sometimes people have to be shown, they can't be told, and this is very much the case. You know, they need to come to this conclusion themselves, and as they're doing now, they're starting to question the injections, they're starting to question these things, you know. And so it has to happen like this. And you're seeing, especially in America, more and more politicians being you know, being things coming out about them and so on. And the more and more this gets uncovered, the more, you know, I think it will be quite organic in, you know, in that process. I don't think there will be too many, you know, casualties of it in that sense, you know.
Let's hope. Yeah, I think I agree with you. I think it is very, very carefully thought out, and exactly to do it as yeah, I wouldn't say with soft gloves, but it certainly isn't. but still as carefully to take care of all kinds of situations and to embrace humanity as well as possible. Yeah. Is there anything you would like to express or say that you have on your heart? So as a last,
I feel I've said so many things. I've done such, I've said I've kind of I think we've touched on almost everything that is important. But I will finish just by saying that I have huge hope for humanity. I have huge hope for and belief in, not just hope, but belief in a beautiful future. And in a way, I've always known it from a young age. I've always known that this is going to happen, though I didn't really hope to see it in my lifetime. But here we go. Here we are. And so I just I'm just delighted to be able to take part in it. I did an audio. I did the audio version for a book. If people are interested in on that thing, I did the audio for a book called The Guide to the Great. Open Your Mind to Change: A Guidebook to the Great Awakening. That is actually currently on #1, I think, still on political debate on Amazon or something like this. It's done by a very insightful guy. So if there are people who are who need a little bit of guidance maybe on that whole aspect of things, the global control structure and how it's being tackled, that's a very good piece of work, and it's very well written. He's a very articulate man, so you can get that as a free PDF, and I'll be the audio version will be coming soon. Just finishing up right now. And otherwise, my website, which I released recently, is called hjartavit.com, HJARTAVIT.com, and that is direct access to my heart math program. I do online sessions, I do in-person sessions, I do groups of up to 10, and each it's very personal specific, person specific, or as much or a little. I can keep it cold and factual as you like, but it's very, it really can go very to the root of personal knots that need untying. So it's a beautiful process. So feel free to be in touch. I can ask any question, answer any questions, and the first session is free for the for the first people that, while I'm still feeling generous, the first session is for free. Yeah, great. You give me the links and I will put them down below. Yes. All right. Like and subscribe. Like and subscribe. Yes. I always forget that. I just love talking to inspiring people like you. All right. It's been such a wonderful time, and I'm so glad to have met you. And I know likewise we will have a ball when I come to Iceland finally and meet you in person. Yay. Oh, I can't wait. Right. Yes, me too. Oh, wow. It's going to be one heck of a party one day, isn't it? Yes, it is. And you are, of course, always welcome to Italy. Yeah. As soon as that's possible. Yes. All right, then bless you. Thank you so much. Bless you and everything you do. Thank you. May it be touched with greatness. Wonderful. Sorun, it's been super lovely. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Thank you. And we'll speak again soon, I'm sure. We do. Okay. Right. Bye-bye. Ciao. Bye.